love, trust, and commitment, 3 things I believed in wholeheartedly. For years, I thought my marriage embodied those values, built on the foundation of mutual respect and devotion. My wife, Emma, had been my world, my reason to push forward on the hardest of days. I worked tirelessly to provide for us, never once imagining that behind her warm smile lurked a secret sharp enough to slice through my heart like a razor. It started subtly, in ways that might seem insignificant to someone who wasn't paying close attention. Emma's laughter over the phone when she thought I wasn't listening, the way she would quickly shove her device into her pocket whenever I walked into the room. The scent of unfamiliar cologne clinging to her clothes, her sudden interest in late-night outings with friends I had never heard of before. At first, I dismissed my suspicions, convincing myself I was overthinking. After all, we had been married for 5 years. She wouldn't betray me, not my Emma. But doubt is like a slow poison. Once it enters the bloodstream, it spreads, corroding everything in its path. The first real crack in my illusion came one night when I woke up to an empty bed. Glancing at the clock, I saw it was nearly 2 in the morning. My gut clenched with unease. I tiptoed downstairs, drawn by the faint glow of Emma's phone screen illuminating the dim living room. Her back was turned to me as she sat curled on the couch, fingers flying over her screen. I remained silent, watching, listening. Then, she whispered a name. Liam. My breath caught. Liam. My younger cousin. The one I had practically raised like a brother. The conversation continued in hushed tones, too quiet for me to make out every word, but I heard enough. The longing in her voice, the way she giggled like a love-struck teenager, it made my stomach turn. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay rooted in place. Bursting in now, demanding answers, wouldn't get me the full truth. I needed proof. The next morning, I acted normal. If she noticed the stiffness in my movements, she didn't mention it. I kissed her goodbye before heading to work, the same as always. But the moment I stepped into my office, I dialed a number I never thought I'd need. Marcus, a private investigator I had helped years ago when he was struggling financially. I need you to find out if my wife is cheating on me, I said, my voice tight. Marcus sighed on the other end. I'll handle it. You sure you're ready for the truth, though? I wasn't. But I needed it anyway. 4 days, I lived in a state of agonizing limbo. Every time Emma touched me, every time she smiled in my direction, I wondered if she was thinking about him instead. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. Then, Marcus delivered his findings. A manila envelope landed on my desk, heavier than any paperwork I had ever handled. My hands trembled as I opened it, flipping through the damning evidence. Photographs of Emma and Liam together, intimate, wrapped in each other's arms in places I had never been. Hotel receipts under fake names. Text exchanges that made my skin crawl. And then, the final blow. A recent message from Liam. Last night was incredible. Can't wait to feel you again. Emma had responded with a heart emoji, followed by, I think it's time. I need to tell Alex. The walls of my office seemed to close in on me. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely think. This wasn't just an affair. It wasn't just meaningless lust. She wanted out. For him. I sat there for what felt like hours, the weight of betrayal pressing down on my chest. My cousin, the same boy I had once taken under my wing, had stolen my wife from me. And she had let him. When I finally walked through the front door that evening, Emma was already home, standing in the kitchen with a glass of wine in hand. She greeted me with a soft smile, but something flickered in her eyes. Hesitation, guilt, or maybe just calculation. I need to talk to you, she said, setting down her glass. I already knew what was coming. I had read it in her messages, seen it in the way she distanced herself from me in recent months. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Go on. She fidgeted, an unusual nervousness in her demeanor. Alex, I don't know how to say this, but I think we should separate. A slow exhale left my lips. Why? Emma bit her lip. We haven't been happy for a long time. I feel like we've been growing apart. And I met someone. I tilted my head. Liam. Her eyes widened in shock before she quickly masked it with forced composure. You? How did you? How did I find out? I let out a humorless chuckle. You weren't exactly discreet, Emma. She straightened her shoulders, exhaling sharply. Alex, I never meant to hurt you. But you did, I interrupted, my voice calm but firm. You betrayed me. With my own cousin. Emma swallowed hard, shifting on her feet. It just happened. I didn't plan this. But Liam and I, we have something real. Rage simmered beneath my skin, but I refused to give her the satisfaction of an outburst. Instead, I leaned against the counter, studying her. And you think I'll just let you go? That I'll make this easy for you? She hesitated before responding. I was hoping we could be civil about it. Civil. The word tasted bitter on my tongue. I see, I murmured, nodding slowly. Then, I locked eyes with her and let my lips curl into a smirk. All right, Emma. You want a divorce? You'll get one. Relief flashed across her face. Too soon. But don't think for a second that you'll walk away from this unscathed, I added smoothly. I hope you're ready for what comes next. Her brow furrowed. What are you talking about? I pushed away from the counter, grabbing an apple from the fruit bowl, biting into it leisurely. You'll find out soon enough. And just like that, the game had begun. Emma thought she had the upper hand. That much was clear from the way she carried herself after our conversation. She no longer pretended to be the devoted wife. Instead, she moved through the house with an air of quiet anticipation, like she was counting down the days until she could be with Liam openly. It made me sick to my stomach. I had sacrificed years of my life for this marriage, working tirelessly to give her a comfortable life. I had trusted her, cherished her, and in return, she had fallen into bed with my own flesh and blood. The betrayal burned inside me, but I refused to let it consume me. I needed to stay sharp. Because if Emma thought she could waltz out of my life and into Liam's arms without consequences, she was sorely mistaken. She wanted a divorce. I would give her one. But I would make sure she regretted ever crossing me. That night, I made a show of being indifferent. Over dinner, I casually mentioned that I'd spoken to a lawyer about handling our divorce. Emma perked up, trying to hide her excitement behind a mask of sympathy. I think that's for the best, Alex, she said, placing a delicate hand on mine. We both deserve to be happy. I barely stopped myself from laughing. We? As if she had cared about my happiness when she was sneaking around with Liam behind my back. I agree, I said smoothly. And since we built this life together, I want to make sure everything is handled fairly. No bad blood. Emma smiled, oblivious to the trap I was setting. That's really mature of you. Mature. She had no idea. The next morning, I put my plan into motion. First, I contacted my lawyer, Jeremy, a ruthless divorce attorney who had handled cases far uglier than mine. He wasn't just good. He was lethal when it came to dismantling cheating spouses in court. I want full control of our assets, I told him. She doesn't get a dime more than she's entitled to. Jeremy let out a low chuckle. Oh, we can do better than that. You said you have proof of infidelity. I slid the folder of incriminating evidence across his desk. Everything's in there. He flipped through the photos and messages, whistling under his breath. This is gold. If she thinks she's walking away with anything substantial, she's in for a rude awakening. Good, I said, leaning back. And I want her blindsided. Jeremy grinned. Consider it done. The next step was dealing with Liam. Betrayal was one thing. But for my own cousin to do this to me? That required a special kind of payback. I called him up, keeping my voice calm, measured. Liam, I need to see you. Man to man. There was a long pause before he responded. Yeah. Sure. Where? The bar on 7th, 8 o'clock. When I arrived, Liam was already there, shifting nervously in his seat. He knew. Or at least, he suspected. I sat down across from him, ordering a whiskey. How long? Liam swallowed hard. Alex, listen. How long? My voice was sharp, cutting through his excuses before he could spew them. He exhaled, rubbing his forehead. A year. A year. My grip tightened around my glass, but I didn't react otherwise. That's a long time to stab someone in the back. His face twisted with guilt. I never meant for it to happen. I laughed coldly. Spare me the excuses, Liam. You knew exactly what you were doing. You knew she was my wife. He lowered his gaze. I didn't want to hurt you, man. I leaned forward, voice low. You didn't just hurt me. You destroyed everything. Liam flinched. What do you want me to say? Nothing, I said, finishing my drink. Because I'm not here for apologies. I'm here to let you know that whatever future you thought you had with Emma, it's over before it even begins. His brows furrowed. What does that mean? I smirked. It means you're about to learn what it feels like to have your world ripped apart. Liam stiffened, clearly unsettled by my confidence. Good. I stood up, tossing some cash onto the table. Enjoy the time you have left with her, Liam. It won't last. And with that, I walked away, leaving him to drown in his own paranoia. The final step was Emma. A few days later, she sat across from me in our lawyer's office, expecting a clean break. I watched as she signed the first few pages of the divorce papers, her lips twitching in relief. Then, Jeremy slid the financial disclosure documents across the table. Her face paled. What is this? Jeremy smiled politely. Your revised settlement agreement. Based on the evidence of infidelity provided by my client, you are no longer entitled to spousal support or any significant assets beyond what you personally own. Emma's head snapped toward me, eyes wide. You're leaving me with nothing? I leaned back, savoring the panic spreading across her face. That's right. Her voice rose. But, Alex, we built this life together. You can't just... I cut her off with a cold stare. You threw it away the moment you slept with Liam. She blinked rapidly, struggling to process what was happening. This isn't fair. I smirked. Neither is cheating on your husband with his own cousin. Her hands trembled as she turned back to Jeremy. This can't be legal. It's perfectly legal, Jeremy said smoothly. And if you contest it, I'll make sure the court knows every dirty detail of your affair. Emma's breath hitched. She knew she couldn't win. Tears welled in her eyes, but I felt nothing. No pity. No remorse. Just satisfaction. Sign it, Emma, I said coolly. Or walk away with even less. Her hand shook as she scribbled her name on the papers, sealing her fate. And just like that, Emma lost everything. Emma stormed out of the lawyer's office, her face a mixture of rage and disbelief. She had walked in expecting to leave with half of everything I built, maybe even more. Instead, she walked out with nothing but regret. I followed at a leisurely pace, watching her stumble in her expensive heels as reality set in. She whirled around, fire in her eyes. You think this makes you the better person, Alex? She hissed. You think stripping me of everything is going to undo what happened? I gave her a slow, amused smile. Oh, Emma. This isn't about undoing anything. This is about making sure you feel the consequences of your actions. Her lip trembled. I loved you. That almost made me laugh. No, you loved the life I gave you. And when it wasn't exciting enough, you ran to him. Emma flinched at the mention of Liam, and I knew why. Because I had one final move left to play. That night, I waited. Emma's car was parked outside our house, my house. The house she no longer had a right to. She hadn't gone inside yet, probably overwhelmed by the weight of what she had lost. I didn't bother speaking to her. I just walked past her, stepping into my home. A home that was mine alone now. Not even an hour later, I got the text I'd been waiting for. Emma, we need to talk. Please. I smirked. Me, about what? Emma, just please. Meet me. I'll come to you. Me, fine. 1 hour. I knew exactly what was coming. Emma showed up looking desperate. Her makeup was slightly smudged, her usually pristine hair a little out of place. This was a woman who had spent the last few hours panicking, replaying every mistake in her head. I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms. Talk. She hesitated, searching my face for any sign of warmth. There was none. Alex, she started, voice softer now, almost pleading. I made a mistake. I raised an eyebrow. Oh. Her eyes darted to the floor. I wasn't thinking. I got caught up in something that wasn't real. I thought I wanted something different, but, she swallowed. I see now that I already had everything I needed. With you. There it is. The realization that she had traded something real for a cheap thrill. The realization that she had destroyed our marriage for a mistake. And now, she wanted to fix it. I let out a low chuckle. Let me guess. It's not working out with Liam. Her shoulders tensed. I tilted my head. He's not the man you thought he was, is he? Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. That silence was confirmation enough. I sighed dramatically. I warned you, Emma. I told you whatever future you thought you had with him was over before it even began. She looked up, confused. What did you do? I grinned. I told you. I made sure you'd feel the consequences. Her breathing quickened. Alex, what did you do? I stepped aside, revealing what had been on my TV screen the entire time. The footage. Raw, undeniable proof of what Liam had been up to behind Emma's back. She staggered forward, her face draining of color as she saw Liam, the man she had thrown everything away for, with another woman. And not just any woman. Her best friend. Emma let out a shaky breath, unable to look away. No, this can't be real. I leaned in. It's real, Emma. He wasn't just sleeping with you behind my back. He was sleeping with her behind yours. She stared, her hands shaking as she watched the man she had betrayed me for betraying her in return. I relished the devastation on her face. You thought you were special? I continued, my voice laced with amusement. You thought he loved you? You were nothing but a game to him, Emma. Tears welled in her eyes. How did you even get this? I smirked. Oh, Liam's not as smart as he thinks. He never was. I had him followed weeks ago. The second I realized what was happening, I started digging. And what do you know? The cheater was being cheated on. Emma collapsed onto the couch, shaking her head in disbelief. Everything she had thrown our marriage away for? Gone. I walked over and crouched in front of her. You thought you won, Emma. You thought you had everything under control. But the truth is, you were played. Her voice was barely a whisper. I didn't know. I shrugged. Doesn't change anything. She let out a choked sob, pressing her hands to her face. I watched her for a moment, then stood. You wanted freedom? You got it. You're no longer my wife. You're no longer in this house. And as for Liam, I smirked. I made sure he lost everything too. Emma lifted her head, eyes filled with dread. He lost his job, I continued. The one I got him in the first place. Turns out, employers don't like hearing about men who sleep with married women. He's broke. Alone. And now, he's just as ruined as you. Emma's lip quivered. You destroyed him? I shrugged. He destroyed himself. Just like you did. She let out a broken sound, her body trembling with the weight of her downfall. I walked to the door, holding it open. Goodbye, Emma. She hesitated, looking at me one last time, as if searching for some part of me that still cared. But she found nothing. Because I was done. Emma sat frozen, her body trembling as my words settled in. She had spent months deceiving me, sneaking behind my back with my own flesh and blood, thinking she was in control. But she wasn't. She had never been. And now, she had nothing left. She swallowed hard, blinking away tears. Alex, please. I raised an eyebrow. Please, what? Her lips trembled. I don't have anywhere to go. There it was. Not love. Not regret. Just desperation. She had burned every bridge, and now she wanted to crawl back. But I wasn't a fool anymore. I smirked. Not my problem. Her face twisted in panic. You can't just throw me out. I can. My voice was firm, unwavering. You don't live here anymore. You signed the divorce papers, remember? You wanted freedom. Now you have it. Her eyes flickered with regret. Too late. I stepped back, nodding toward the door. Leave. Emma didn't move at first. Her mind was still scrambling, looking for any way out. But there wasn't one. Eventually, she stood, her hands clenching into fists. You're cruel. I chuckled. No, Emma. You were cruel. I'm just making sure justice is served. She opened her mouth as if to argue, then thought better of it. With one last look at me, half hate, half sorrow, she turned and walked out the door. And just like that, she was gone. I exhaled, shutting the door behind her. For the first time in months, I felt light. No more lies. No more betrayal. No more wondering if the woman in my bed was secretly in someone else's arms. I poured myself a drink and sank into the couch, letting silence wrap around me like a long-lost friend. And then, a message. I picked up my phone. It was from someone unexpected. Olivia, I heard about everything. I hope you're okay. I stared at the screen, a slow smirk tugging at my lips. Olivia. My old college friend. The woman I had almost dated years ago before life pulled us in different directions. She had always been smart, loyal, and breathtakingly beautiful. And unlike Emma, she was honest. I typed back. Me, I'm better than okay. Want to meet up? Her reply was instant. Olivia, name the time and place. 3 days later, I sat across from Olivia at a rooftop restaurant, the city skyline glowing behind her. She was even more stunning than I remembered. Confident, radiant, and completely different from the woman I had just divorced. She sipped her wine, studying me. So, Emma really did all that? I nodded, swirling my drink. Yep. And she thought she'd get away with it. Olivia shook her head in disbelief. And Liam? Broke. Jobless. Probably regretting every decision he ever made. She laughed. Wow. Remind me never to betray you. I chuckled. You wouldn't. Her expression softened. No. I wouldn't. Silence stretched between us, but it wasn't awkward. It was charged. I leaned in slightly. So, Olivia, tell me. Why did you text me that night? She bit her lip, looking almost shy. I don't know. Maybe because I heard what happened and realized something. What? That I should have never let you go in the first place. The air between us thickened. I reached for her hand, running my thumb over her skin. Maybe it's not too late. She smiled. Maybe not. That night, as I walked Olivia to her car, she turned to face me. You know, she murmured, I always wondered what kissing you would feel like. I grinned. Guess there's only one way to find out. And then, she pulled me in, her lips crashing against mine. It wasn't like kissing Emma. There was no guilt, no hesitation, just pure fire. When we finally broke apart, she whispered, Come home with me. I didn't even hesitate. I was finally free. And this time, I wasn't looking back.